Now to some of the big legal cases we are keeping our eye on this week in our segment Burden of Proof. New details this morning in the sex trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors now claiming that from behind bars, Combs has been actually trying to reach out to possible witnesses and influence a potential jury pool. An undocumented immigrant is now on trial for the murder of a 22-year-old nursing student, Laken Riley, in Georgia. You see him there. And the outgoing Los Angeles DA is releasing hundreds of new documents about Eric and Lyle Menendez, their lives behind bars. But what is the newly elected DA saying about this case now? We want answers to all that. So let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Bernarda Villalona. Bernarda, it's good to see you on this Sunday. We appreciate it. Let's start with Diddy, okay? He's pleaded not guilty to all charges of racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution, sex trafficking. He denies any wrongdoing. But what more do we know about these recorded calls from jail? Diddy allegedly trying to influence the outcome of the trial, including potential witnesses and jurors.
Yeah, so it's important to know that when you're in custody, whether it's federal custody or state custody, that the phone calls that you make while you're in custody, it's being recorded unless those calls are being made to your attorney. Those calls are not recorded because they are privileged communications between you and your client. So the prosecutor is stating that several calls were made between Diddy and his sons, where he's claiming that he's telling the sons to try to put out videos or narratives out there that will benefit Diddy in the long run when it comes to the jury pool, to the jury itself, but also to try to contact witnesses or potential witnesses in this case. Again, these are allegations that are being made by the prosecutors. None of this has been proven. But what I do presume may happen that at this third application hearing is that the prosecutor is going to play this for the judge.
Let's move on to the Laken Riley murder case. The accused killer, Jose Ibarra, has pleaded not guilty and waived his right to a trial in front of a jury. What does that mean in terms of what's going to happen in the courtroom? And do you think that was a wise choice?
Well, this case is going to be determined by the judge, not by a jury. It's going to be determined by one person, and that judge is going to make the decision as to guilt and innocent. And if there is a guilty conviction in this case, this will be the same judge that will be determining the sentence in this case. I think given the climate and given that Mr. Ibarra is an illegal immigrant inside of the country, and also the emotional and the savageness of how this woman was killed, I think it was the best decision that the defense could have made in terms of going with a judge, because the judge will put his emotions aside and decide this case simply on the facts, especially since the defense is claiming that, one, there's an issue as to the forensic and the forensic testing, and also the possibility that someone else was the person who committed this heinous act, specifically his brother or someone else. However, given the strength of the prosecution's case, it's highly likely that he's going to be found guilty, given that the victim scratched her attacker and the DNA found underneath her fingernail matched to that of the defendant.
Yeah, some of the details in this case are really, really hard to hear. Let's jump over to this. Finally, the Menendez brothers convicted of killing their parents in this infamous case more than 30 years ago. Outgoing Los Angeles DA recommending to resentence Eric and Lyle Menendez. But the newly elected DA is pledging to review all the facts in the original case before making that decision. However, there are still two possible paths, right, to freedom for them. So can you walk us through the different ways these brothers could potentially walk free?
Well, the number one path is one by the governor, whether Governor Newsom will grant clemency to the Menendez brothers. That will be the clearest and fastest path for them to actually be released. And that can only be done by the governor. So that's the first path. The second path is that the judge can hear the case and can decide on his own to vacate the murder conviction and instead find him guilty as to the lesser included of manslaughter and sentence them to time served, and they can be released doing that path. Also, the habeas corpus can be granted, but the habeas corpus can grant them a new trial, and they'll have to go through the trial again. Or the fourth path, of course, if there's a determination that they should be resentenced, and the recommendation from the new DA may be that they be resentenced, the judge abides by their recommendation, it goes to the parole board agrees with that recommendation, and then ultimately they can be released. Again, 4 different paths, but all of it is going to take time. The quickest way is if the Governor Newsom, grants clemency.
All right, Bernarda Villalona. Bernarda, thanks so much for taking the time on a Sunday. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.